this is Jackie. I'm the instructor for EXS 214. So I'm excited today to have this opportunity to share some knowledge with you. I hope it'll help you during your career helping others as a part of the healthcare field, assuming that's your goal. It doesn't have to be, of course. Hopefully this information can be valuable in other ways, maybe just as a part of your own exercise program. So I decided to make this video to cover some of the information that's required for this class, but we're so limited as far as in-person meeting time, so I thought maybe this would be a helpful way to do it. So what I want to cover today is a section about group instructors, so basically teaching a group fitness class. So what are some characteristics and qualifications that would make a really good group instructor? We'll also talk about some career options as a group fitness instructor. Maybe you'll decide to pursue or maybe not. So, okay, first of all, the name of the class that you're signed up for is EXS 214, and the title for that class is Instructional Competency, Flexibility in Mind-Body Exercises. So just looking at that title, so one part of this class is mind-body exercises. So we'll cover that a lot, more later in the semester. So we'll cover what mind-body means and then the many options as far as mind-body exercises that there are. And there are a lot, by the way. But another big part of this class, and really mostly this class, is about flexibility exercises. So we'll cover that pretty extensively throughout this whole semester. So today, today's topic for this presentation here, we're going to focus on some specific topics under flexibility training, so especially group training opportunities. So as far as flexibility goes in general, I'm sure you have at least some experience with it. At some point in your life, I imagine you must have done some stretching, maybe as a part of your own regular workouts, or maybe during practice if you've ever been a member of a sports team, or maybe you have tried a yoga class in the past. So hopefully you enjoyed your experience doing flexibility training, whatever kind it might have been. So let's talk about why it was that you did include stretching as a part of your workouts, assuming you did. Or why would anybody? So there's a lot of reasons why people stretch. Flexibility programs do give lots of benefits to us and to our health. So, what are some of those? So, why do people stretch? The most obvious kind of reason is people stretch to get more flexible. Well, okay, but why? Why do people care about being more flexible? And the answer is really they want to decrease their risk of injury. So, when we move throughout the day, we do our ADLs, as they call them, or activities of daily living, we would be less likely to be injured if we're more flexible. So if the opposite is true, so if you have a muscle that's tight, for example, so it's not flexible, and you move, doing something during the day, maybe, bending down to pick up something off the floor, or, reaching high up to get something off of a high shelf. So you're reaching beyond your normal range of motion. So if a muscle is tight, you might actually tear that muscle. So stretching regularly increases our range of motion, or sometimes that's abbreviated ROM, and that in turn decreases our risk of injury. So that's one reason. So another reason why people might stretch is to rehabilitate an injury. So maybe it's too late, they've already injured their muscle, or maybe, something else in their joint. So perhaps increasing the range of motion at that joint would help heal the area, or at least prevent re-injuring that same area again. So they might include flexibility exercises as a part of their rehab. Okay, so another reason is to increase athletic performance. So it does definitely help with sports and making us all better athletes. So we're actually better athletes if we are more flexible. So why is that? So when our muscles are tight, it's harder to use them because they're actually inhibited if they're tight. tight, so it's basically harder to get that signal there and to get them to actually contract. So that in turn, of course, if it's, takes longer time for a muscle to contract, or if it's just harder to get that signal through, so then it makes it harder, for that muscle to start working. So like if you're taking off, doing a sprint, it's going to make you slower. So, you definitely want your muscles to be, responding as quickly as possible when you're an athlete. And then also it helps increase our coordination. So if your muscles are just moving more smoothly, they're recruited better, then they're working together better, and you just end up being better coordinated. And that also in turn helps with athletic performance, because you certainly want to be coordinated and have a lot of those complex physical skills, which is a big part of sports. Okay, so another reason to do some flexibility training, or at least for some people, maybe not for all, but people might do it to improve their mental well-being. So some people stretch for the mental benefits. So what do those include? So stress relief, some stretching can really help with us getting rid of our stress during the day. It's actually a great stress relief technique. They might do stretching for the relaxation. So of course, depending on how you do it, stretching can be very relaxing. Some environments, stretching can really help getting your mind to relax, and that can help you be more focused and help you get through your day better. And also, as far as your mental well-being, it can also increase your body awareness. So we call that proprioception, but we'll get into that actually later in the semester. But okay, so another reason people do flexibility training might be to increase their strength, or how toned they are. So some people do regular flexibility training because they want to get stronger. They want their muscles to tone up. So that's especially true when you think of people going to yoga and Pilates classes, especially some of the harder ones in that genre. That might be one of the reasons why they're doing that flexibility training. So another might be to improve balance. So again, kind of especially thinking about yoga, a lot of the poses in yoga do challenge your balance. So flexibility training can help increase your balance and your body awareness. So those in turn help decrease your risk of falling, which is important for everybody, but especially our senior population. So more and more of our seniors, high numbers of them have osteoporosis, which the lay term for that is the brittle bone disease. So if they fall, and their bones are kind of brittle, they have a high risk of breaking a bone. So they especially need to decrease their risk of fall. So they might do flexibility training in order to improve their balance, to decrease the risk of that. So another kind of less common reason why people might do flexibility training is for kind of like the cultural experience of it. So again, we're kind of going back to yoga. So there is sort of a cultural aspect to yoga. So it does depend on the teacher or where the class is conducted. But some people get into yoga because they want to experience that different culture. So there's some influences from India in some yoga teachers or in some classes where they're held. So things such as the meditating and learning to say namaste and all other aspects that you might think of if you think of yoga. So some people will do it because they really want that kind of different experience. Okay, and then lastly, another reason why people might do flexibility training is to decrease soreness, like after they've worked out really hard. So some people, lay people, who aren't studying exercise science, they may say that they stretch at the end of their workouts to minimize, how sore they're going to get, the next day after they've just worked out really hard. But please note that I have that start, and that's for a reason. So that is actually not the case. So stretching doesn't help much, maybe a little bit with how sore you get. Again, we'll cover that in another class. But really, that one is actually not true. Stretching really doesn't help much as far as decreasing how sore you're going to get if you worked out really hard. that about 54% of active adults regularly stretch. So as you know, of course, we have an obesity problem in our country. So only about a third of our country does actually regularly exercise or are considered active. And so this is about half of them. So of course, not enough people are stretching. We just went through all the benefits of it. Obviously, it's very good for our health. We should all be doing it. But yeah, so about a third, so about a sixth of the country is actually doing regular stretching exercises. But let's take a look at some of this. So focusing in on yoga for just a second. So a non-scientific study, granted, that was conducted in 2012, showed that some of the participation rates for yoga. So in the U.S., about 20.4 million people are, according to them, these people participating in the study, they say that they practice yoga regularly. So now 20.4 out of the U.S. So the U.S. has about 319 million people. So 20.4 million is about 15%. So again, that is still a low number generally, but 20.4 million people. Okay, if we can just get more people participating, that's increasing by millions. If we just increased percentage point. So we certainly have a lot of room to improve, basically is what I'm trying to say. So, the same study had been conducted in 2008, so 4 years earlier, and they found that in 2012 that rates had gone up by about 20%. So that's good. Hopefully we can keep this trend going. So the reasons that the participants in the study were asked why they participate in yoga. So one of the reasons, definitely the biggest reason people gave, was to increase their flexibility. Almost all the people responded that they were doing the yoga to increase their flexibility. So some other things that they listed, so general conditioning. So again, just trying to be generally fit. So stress relief, so a little bit more than half of the people said that they were doing it for those mental benefits, for that stress relief, improving their overall health, and to increase their physical fitness level. About half of them said that's why they were participating. So for sure, people are participating in yoga because they want to increase their flexibility. So clearly people value that. So, and then another little stat, just as an FYI, on any given day, the number of people practicing yoga across the whole world is in the millions. So that's pretty neat. Okay. I know I keep bringing up yoga. Yoga is not necessarily a part of flexibility training at all. So, this class is not going to be all about yoga. So just in case if you're not interested in yoga, you don't have to be as a part of this class. But it is, as you can see, it is popular. It does indeed do flexibility training, and it is usually a group fitness class. But it's not even the only group fitness class focused on flexibility training. There are, in fact, others. So some examples are, there's Tai Chi, there's resistance training, there's Nia, there's many others, Pilates, there's sit and stretch classes for seniors. So we'll actually talk about a bunch of these different classes later in the semester. But so we're focusing today on group training. So it is certainly possible that it could be a part of your career. You might do small group personal training if you decide to become a personal trainer. You might work with a large group of athletes or students, maybe as a strength coach, or as a coach, as a sports coach, or maybe as a PE teacher. Or yes, you might go on to teach group fitness classes, so maybe yoga or Pilates, but you're certainly not limited to those. There's so many other options: CrossFit, Zumba, spinning, body pump, jazzercise. There's still around, or like group TRX classes. Those are all examples of group classes. So while they might not focus on flexibility training, they all likely do and should have flexibility as a part of their workouts. So let's go ahead and look at any of these group fitness classes. So any of those that I just listed, where might they take place? So probably the first one that comes to mind is either in a gym or in a health club. So they probably have like a separate room where they conduct their group fitness classes. Or another example might be in a smaller studio, such as like a yoga studio or a personal training studio. It's possible that group fitness classes could be conducted in someone's home. So that's certainly dependent on space, and somebody being accommodating to allow that to happen, or maybe you to host these classes. Or it could be a sports setting. So, as mentioned before, maybe people are stretching as a part of practice before or after a game, or, so this is definitely as a part of being an athlete. So it might be on a field or on a court. And then lastly, although, there's other options too, but kind of, focusing on the main points here. There's outdoors. So, for example, in a public park. So I can't bring this up without making one big point, so I'm going to go off on a tangent here for a little bit. So if you're hosting group or one-on-one activities in a public park, one thing I want you to be very cautious about is what your liability is. So I think that most people know that if they have a gym or they own like a small personal training studio, and let's say somebody fell at that location. So maybe, there's a ledge in the flooring or something, like a carpet's coming up or a tile is sticking up or something like that, and somebody falls and gets hurt. So you know that if you're the owner of that gym or that studio, you probably would recognize that you're responsible and that you're probably going to get sued for the person's damages, which means their medical bills. So, what's less clear, people might not be sure what happens if you're, having that, same activity, like if it's a group class, in your home. And yes, you are still responsible if something happens, if somebody gets hurt and they, have injuries. Yes, they can still sue you if it's in your home. So then people, let's say that they're hosting a class outside. A lot of people think if they're, in a public place, in a park that's owned, let's say, by the city of Scottsdale, for example. So it's the city's property, so therefore they're not liable and they can't be sued if there's an injury. And that is not correct. If you are in charge, then you are responsible for the safety of your participants. So please be very careful. So definitely survey the area where people are going to be before they get there every time, and make sure to watch out for stuff. So, for example, somebody could, step in a hole and roll their ankle, hurt their ankle, break it, or, tear some ligaments. And again, they can sue you for those damages. Watch out for things like, pieces of glass on the floor. So if you're having people do, things like push-ups on the ground, they're putting their hands down. Watch out for things like rusty nails, pieces of glass, where they can get hurt and they can get sick. So you're just as responsible outside, even if it's in a public park, as you are if it was in your own home or your own gym. Yes, could you turn around, so you get sued, can you turn around and say that the city is at least partially responsible and sue them for part of the damages? Yes, you could probably go through all of that, but think of how much stress and how much time that's going to cost you. So why not just avoid the situation to begin with? So, definitely check out the area and make sure that it's safe for your participants. So another little note about using outdoor areas, check to see if you need permission first. Most of the time you do, but it's usually not that hard to get. You maybe just have to fill out a quick form and submit it to the city. And it's better to do it up front. So, check before you do it. It's just better. So, I mean, the alternative is that you don't do it. You start hosting a boot camp class, at the local park, and then someday maybe the police come by and they ask you, hey, do you have a permit to be doing this? And if you don't, then of course you're going to be asked to leave immediately. So of course you don't look good. You end up looking kind of bad. So if you had the permit, could show it, then your participants would know that you're, making sure to take care of all those details and that those are important to you, which they should be if you're in charge. And then, of course, think about the situation. So let's say you don't have the permit, you get kicked out, and now you have to go find a different location. You're breaking the momentum that your participants might have because you have been just starting this group class. They have all this excitement to be a part of this fitness program. And now you have to find another location. Maybe you can't find one, or maybe you do. And some of the participants say, oh, well, that's so much farther away from me, so now I can't do it anymore. You have to refund their money. I mean, it can end up being quite a hassle and make you look pretty bad. So that's not a good way, to help your image as a professional. So take care of those details in the beginning. Get the permits. Like I said, it's usually pretty easy. And you might not even need one, but I would say, call the city and find out, or call the owner of that public property, if it's, federal, whatever. Just make sure that you cross your T's and dot your I's. And then I would also say, make sure that you have liability insurance. You shouldn't be, having a business like that without liability insurance. And then, like I said, just be aware of the surroundings and take care of your participants. Be sure to be aware of their safety. Okay, enough of that little tangent there. So, let's go ahead and move on. So, let's talk about some aspects that make a group fitness instructor successful. So, what are some of the differences between hosting a group class versus doing things, where you're just working with one person at a time? So what are the different things that you might encounter, and then what are some ideas to best handle those differences? Okay, so first of all, you might have a variety of fitness levels participating at any given time. So, for example, you might have some people who are super fit, and then some people might just be starting an exercise program. So then what do you do? Like, how do you handle that? And by the way, so I'll give you a bunch of, different ideas for each of these different factors that we look at, but there are certainly more than what I'm giving you just today. Definitely go ahead and come up with some of your own ways to handle some of these challenges. Make these classes your own. Putting your own spin on it, can really reach some people and make it more interesting. Okay, so going back to, so you have a wide variety of fitness levels. So one thing that you can do is to offer a variety of options for each exercise, or if it's, flexibility training, for each stretch that you give. So, like for example, something that has, tons of variations on it is, the front plank. So you can show the front plank, and then you can show all kinds of different variations on it, so if somebody needs to modify it, they could do it on their knees versus on their toes, or if some people want to make it harder, you can give some examples for that. So that way, again, people can kind of choose their own version, or you could suggest it for them if you know them well enough and if that's your teaching style. Okay, so another thing that you might encounter is that you'll probably have different levels of motivation within the group. So some people, are just hugely self-motivated people. They know that they can work out on their own, and they would, but maybe they're coming to your class because they like the group setting, they like working out with other people. They might like just having the different ideas instead of, doing their same routine all the time. Or maybe you push them that extra little bit that they don't do on their own. So whatever. So those are some people. And then there are people who, they always kind of try to cut corners, or they have excuses for why they're, either not going to show up or don't feel like doing it today, that kind of thing. So how do you handle that and keep everybody happy and coming back? So you can't just ignore the people who are, very self-motivated and only focus on the kind of more needy people, because then you're going to lose all the, very motivated people if they're not getting any attention. Again, if they know that they're going to do it on their own anyway, if they're not getting any attention at all, then, why come? So, one idea for all the people there is, to keep their motivation up, remind them what their goals are. So now, of course, that implies that you have to know what their goals are. So definitely try to get to know them, and then remind them, hey, Mary, I know that you're trying to do this so that you can look great at your daughter's wedding. Hey, we're getting closer. Let's keep it up. You've made so much success so far. You've been coming regularly. Keep it up. Or even just the benefits of each exercise that they're doing, or for their health, of course. Hopefully they're doing this for their health. So just keep reminding them all the benefits. This exercise is great for your core. Whatever the case might be. So just keep reminding them so that they remember why they're coming, and that helps, keep their motivation. And another thing, be motivating yourself. So one part of that is have a great attitude while you're there. Make sure that you are happy to be there, and if you're grumbling and, oh gosh, I didn't get my Starbucks this morning, you're acting like you don't feel like being there, you're kind of not going to make other people want to be there. So be motivating, have a great attitude, and then also be a good role model. If you aren't doing some of the stuff that, you're telling other people to do, they're kind of, going to look at you and say, well, why should I do it if you don't do these, that kind of thing. So be a good role model, but that, which of course, don't take that too far. That doesn't mean that you can never eat something that, is quote unquote bad for you. It means that you understand the importance of most of the time having a healthy, a balanced life, having a good, healthy lifestyle. Okay, moving on, next one. So you might encounter different learning styles if you have a group versus, one person. So you might have learned that in another class, that there are different ways how people learn. So just to kind of generally sum it up here kind of quickly, there's 3 kinds of learners. So there's visual learners, so those are people who learn by seeing. There's auditory learners, who learn best by, actually hearing the information. And then there's kinesthetic, which kind of generally means, people who learn by feeling it, but they mean basically by doing it. They learn by doing. So what you would want to do then, if you might and likely will have all these 3 different kinds of learners in your class, is go ahead and try to teach to all of them each time that you're teaching. So for example, for the visual learners, make sure to demonstrate the exercises, show the actual stretches that you are asking them to do. If you have a kind of class where it's like a circuit or a boot camp class, you could have pictures out so that people can see what proper form is. And then for the auditory learners, speak the instructions, make sure that, be clear about what people should do, tell them how to properly do the move or the exercise. And then during the class, use different clues. Sorry. I have dogs in the background, which you probably hear, but, if I stop every time they make noise, then this is going to take me all day. So I apologize for the background noise. But anyway, okay, so for the auditory learners, so speak the instructions, and then also use lots of cueing during the class. Those are generally like 1 or 2, little words that can help them remember how to do the move properly, so that they're constantly getting that verbal communication from you. Okay, so then that last kind of learners, so that third kind, so those are the kinesthetic people. So they learn by doing. So one good idea is to have them do a few practice reps before they actually do the exercise, either at full effort or with additional weight, depending on what kind of class this is. Or another thing is that you could actually correct their bodies if they're doing it improperly, and kind of lead them through the motion. But can't mention that without having another little sidebar that please remember that it is always a very wise idea for trainers. And I'm talking about personal trainers, that they have to ask for permission before you touch a client. So make sure that you do that. Can I show you how to do this movement properly? And then you can go ahead and move them. Okay, so another big difference with group versus one-on-one is, so how do you monitor a whole class? Let's say you have a big full classroom full of people. So how do you give everybody enough individual attention so you feel it's worth it to come to your class? So I would suggest trying to walk around, and address people individually. Try to learn their names if they come regularly. And that way, let's say that you are staying, to demonstrate some moves at the front of the class, and you see somebody doing it improperly, so you can talk to them from far away if you know their name. Although, of course, that being said, please be sensitive so that you're not making somebody feel bad by pointing out, in front of the room so everybody can hear you're doing this wrong, that kind of thing. So please be sensitive. Okay, also on that note, please also be prepared. I can't stress that enough when it comes to any kind of group class. So have a plan in mind. Although, of course, if you have a plan in mind, people are going to show up and you're going to have to adapt, because they're going to request something different. But if you are as prepared as you could possibly be for all the different options that might happen that day, that way you can focus more on what the people are doing rather than constantly trying to figure out while the class is going on, oh my gosh, what are we doing next? So if you have a plan in mind for, let's say it's, a bunch of yoga moves, or it's the choreography for a step class, or exercise that participants are going to do for, your boot camp class, whatever the case might be, have everything pretty much planned out as best you can. Again, you'll probably have to have options and adapt. But have it as ready as you can be before people get there. So again, that way you are able to pay attention to them because you're not stressing out trying to figure out what on earth you're supposed to be doing. Have equipment out so that you're not, there's more people showing up. I gotta go run and get some more, medicine balls so that we can all use them during this, group training. So then, of course, you're leaving to go get some more medicine balls, and of course, people aren't getting, they're not being monitored, they're not getting individual attention. So be prepared. Okay, another difference that you might experience with groups versus one-on-one is you might have people showing up with different expected outcomes. For example, okay, I'm going to bring up yoga again. I know, I keep going back to yoga. And people who are just non-yogis are just groaning, like, oh, too much about yoga. Okay, but yoga makes a great example for this. Okay, so you advertise that you're going to offer beginning yoga class. And you think that everybody's going to show up and know exactly what you mean by a beginner yoga class. But you have some people show up who want a class that's just, relaxation, some meditation, maybe some gentle stretching, but nothing really physically demanding. Or you might have some people show up who, maybe have never done yoga before, but they're otherwise fit and they want a good stretch and they want some toning, they want some core work as well. So how do you handle that? Certainly makes it hard to please everybody, but you want to, everybody to leave happy and not have some people leave and, let's say if they hated your class, that kind of thing. You don't want that to happen. So the best thing that you could really do actually is to be as clear as you can up front. So when you are marketing your class, be as clear as you can be about what people can expect. So, gentle stretching as a part of this class, or, this boot camp class is going to be for high fitness level people. And then maybe, so you're not turning anybody away. Okay, if you are interested in, a beginner boot camp class, please, send me an email, sign up for my list, whatever. And that way you'll know if people are interested in that. But again, be as clear as you can up front so people know what to expect, so that way they're not disappointed. So other options, so let's say you have the people there. So try to get to know who is coming, talk to them in advance if you can, so you can, kind of learn more about what their goals are so that you can best be prepared so that you do teach appropriate for what their goals are. And then also, try to be flexible, try to be adapting if you can again. Some people, again, might say they want harder stretching, and some people want, the relaxation. So you could kind of, mix it up. So let's say it's a half-hour class, then you could do, 15 minutes of, the harder stretching, and then followed by 15 minutes of, relaxation and meditation. So that's kind of a compromise, and maybe that's the best solution. But then definitely, talk to people, follow up with them, and ask them, after the class, did this meet your needs? Are you happy with the class? Is there anything I can do to improve? And then I think that will certainly increase the chances that they're going to come back, basically. So, you're listening to them, and you're trying to, give them basically what they were hoping for. Okay, so overall, as you might have figured out already, my advice to sum it up for what to do if you're doing group classes, you have all these, different levels, different motivation styles, all that kind of thing. I would say be prepared, get to know people, really try and learn what their goals are. Yeah, just basically be prepared. So, again, group classes might be something you want to consider as a part of your career, or maybe a supplement to your career. They have a long history of being popular. People really enjoy that social aspect. Of course, that does assume that they like the other people in the class and the instructor. But, there's that additional commitment, there's that accountability. It's more fun because there's, just more people there. So it is a good idea to kind of be open to that. So, what if you are? What if I convinced you? So you have lots of options. Again, this could be as a full-time career or as a, supplement if you're just going to teach a couple classes a week or whatever. It can, help boost your business as a personal trainer even. So you teach a couple classes a week of full body toning, and you teach one or two little tidbits every class, and all of a sudden people are saying, I want you to work on my whole exercise program, and all of a sudden, it's helping to promote your one-on-one personal training business. So, the demand is there. People do enjoy group fitness classes in general. So, there are some certifications that are specific if you're interested in being a group fitness instructor. So, ACSM, which is the American College of Sports Medicine, and they're very reputable. If you want to get a personal training certification, or if you want to work in the cardiac rehab arena, they are very well recognized, excellent reputation. So they do have a specific group fitness instructor, GFI certification. So through the ACSM, their certification costs about $300. But please go ahead and look online at their website and get more information about that. Another one is ACE, or the American Council on Exercise. They also have a GFI certification. It's also around the same amount of money, about $300. But again, please go ahead and look at their website if you're interested. Again, if you're interested, of course, certainly I am not, promoting that you go out and spend this money just as a part of this class. Absolutely not. This is just for your own personal information if you are interested. Okay, so another one is AFA, or AFAA. That's the Aerobics and Fitness Association of America. They might be the most affordable of these options, but still being reputable. And for a long time, they've been, especially for group classes in a gym or a health club, they've been kind of one of the, most popular for a while. ACE also is quite popular. But anyway, if you are interested in doing, group classes at, a health club or a specific gym, I would say definitely, call them up before you even spend any money, and see what they're interested in having you have as a certification, so that you can, best meet the needs of the place that you actually want to be. So some group classes are specialized, something like CrossFit, Zumba, Body Pump. So those are, trademark kind of classes, so you'd have to be certified by them specifically in order to teach those kind of classes. And if you are not certified by them and you teach, let's say, Zumba without Zumba certification, then they can actually come after you for a trademark infringement. So you don't want that. So just keep that in mind. So you might have to go off and get a special certification through them specifically if you want to teach those kind of classes. If you're interested in teaching yoga or Pilates, those also usually required. Of course, also again depends on where you're going to teach, but it usually does require specialty training and certification in that specific discipline, whichever one it might be, yoga or Pilates. So usually the way it works is that they require you to have so many hours of practice where you're practicing teaching and having hands-on experience. So 500 hours is a very normal kind of common amount of hours for a basic certification. So that's probably the most expensive of all the options that I've listed here. But it might be something that you might be interested in doing for the rest of your life. So it might be worth it to you. Of course, that's totally your individual decision. Okay, so that covers some of the aspects of group training. So I certainly appreciate your attention today. I hope you've learned something, and I hope maybe you were even inspired, maybe at least to learn more about something that has been mentioned in this video. So regardless, please go ahead and complete the questions on